Welcome to the TechTrends podcast, where we discuss the latest manufacturing, technology, research, and news. Today's episode is sponsored by IMTS Plus. I'm Ramia Lloyd, and I'm here with
Elissa Davis,
Stephen LaMarca,
Benjamin Moses, the anchor. The good anchor.
I love that, actually.
Guys, let's talk about end of year holidays. We're at the end of the year. There's tons of holidays. Whatever you guys practice or do or believe in, doesn't matter. There's a tradition involved.
Mm-hmm.
My tradition is, actually, we've had a bunch of varying traditions throughout the year, but in the end, we still see my parents and my in-laws. They're close by. So generally, we'll go to my in-laws like Christmas Eve, have a great time, eat dinner there, and then go to my parents' house for lunch. This year, my sister is actually hosting at their place, kind of close by. It's fun because it's a kind of new experience every single time. Every time we go to my parents' house or in-laws' house, they haven't moved. My parents have been in the same place since I was in like in 8th grade. Been there for a long time. But every time we go back, it's like a new experience. Like either they've done something new, they invite someone new, or my sister's kids have some new toys that is just making a mess everywhere, or some kid throws up.
That sounds about right.
Just a fun, interesting time. And same with my in-laws that we go on Christmas Eve. It's great to get like traditional Indian food that time of the year because it's cold. So we get something spicy and hot, and we just hang out till it gets dark. That's the other thing I don't like is driving back when it's dark.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
How about you, Ramia? What are we doing?
Normally, so we have one tradition that stays since I was maybe like 10. And my mom does chicken and waffles.
Chicken and waffles?
Every Christmas morning.
Nice.
That's like our breakfast, and then we don't eat again until like 6 p.m. But
Like, wonderful.
We homemade fried chicken, homemade waffles. We're like killing it. The last 2 years we've been doing Christmas vacations. So last year we went on a cruise. This year we're going on a cruise. So
Nice.
we're like, we're
That's something new.
cruising to the Caribbean for Christmas, and I'm thriving.
That's
So
amazing.
excited.
warm.
Yeah. But what about you, Alyssa? What do you got?
Well, so my family, so I lived in Japan for 4 years growing up, when my dad was in language school when he was in the military. And in Japan, back in like, I think it was the 70s, when KFC came to Japan, they did a massive campaign to get people to buy KFC on Christmas Eve. Because their ovens are not big enough for American-sized turkeys, right? Maybe a small ham. That's as good as you're going to get. And so they started a campaign being like, hey, order KFC. I just want to say the side note, KFC is much better in Japan than it is in America. No offense, KFC in America, but like they have like tempura fried chicken tenders and they're so
That
good.
crust is nice.
So you have to order your KFC months in advance,
Sure.
like at least 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's not the case here. Although it is hopping at
Is
KFC
it?
on a Christmas Eve in the U.S., I will say.
Okay.
There was one year when I lived in Colorado where they ran out of my mom's chicken. Like my mom bought the chicken through like
Right.
Grubhub, and then they ended up selling it to someone else. My mom, I have never seen her that angry. Like, because this is something we've done for like 20 some years, and she was so angry. So we got Chick-fil-A that year. She was not. Now she's like, okay, well, whatever. If something happens, we'll just get Chick-fil-A. So that's like in our back pocket.
Yep.
But it's almost always KFC every single Christmas Eve, and then we all open one gift. And then my mom has started doing in the mornings. She does brioche French toast.
Ooh, brioche is
Yeah,
nice.
she makes
Amazing.
amazing French toast. Like her batter is perfect.
Okay.
So yeah, the holidays. I mean, they're about gifts and giving and stuff like that. But we definitely have kind of built it around food.
Same. The
Yeah.
food is pivotal for good holidays.
Yes.
We definitely need to compare notes on sides and toppings for
Oh, yeah.
waffles and chicken.
Yes.
And I do feel like an experience everyone should go through is like a fast food holiday. So like Popeyes offers like deep fried turkey, but like getting to the end of year holidays, I feel like everyone should experience what is it like to order food, or if you watch A Christmas Story, going to a Chinese restaurant trying to get duck with dogs running through the restaurant.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a new experience everyone should have in their life.
I completely agree because especially if you're international,
Oh yeah, definitely.
because fast food's gonna be better international than it is gonna be in the U.S.
True.
Again, no
For
offense
sure.
to any U.S. fast food restaurants, but like
Full
it's just
offense.
a known fact.
That, that's full
I'm saying full offense.
What about you,
how about-
Steve?
So, I was struggling to think of some family holiday traditions, and my family didn't really have too many growing up other than, like, my mom and her sister, my aunt, would go back and forth between, which one would host the entire family in the immediate area. for Thanksgiving and which one would do Christmas, and they'd alternate it. But now, like, you know, my mom lives in a condo now. My aunt lives all the way out in Percival, which is like, you know, an hour and a half from here, and on like a truffle farm. So like now that Melissa and I have a house, we bought a house this year, and it's actually clean because we're adults now in 2023. We're actually thinking we have told people that we're gonna host the family's holiday Christmas dinner is gonna be at my house this year, which is crazy.
Are you scared?
Yeah, because I'm not ready to be an adult. It's like, this is an adult thing. But now that I think about it, Melissa's has a holiday traditional dish that she got passed down from her mom that they just call like an egg dish. It's a breakfast thing. It's like a breakfast casserole that you put on the bottom hash browns, and then you put some breakfast sausage or even Italian sausage, and then peppers, onions.
It's like 7-layer dip of breakfast.
Yeah. and you just cover it in a big layer of cheese and bake it and let it get gooey and like just a little browned on the bottom, and you just slice into it, and that's the holiday breakfast. They just call it egg dish. Which is,
I feel like Christmas Day breakfast is something that like people don't talk about enough. Like
That's true.
I agree.
That's true.
because growing up, we always did something big for Christmas breakfast.
yeah.
Even if it was just my mom making like pancakes instead of having like frozen waffles,
Right.
You know,
Right.
like Bisquick pancakes. Like it was always like it was more of a production,
Yeah.
because it's a special day.
Right. Growing up, my dad was the cook in the household. So like all of the meals came from him. My mom's a good cook too. But all of but Christmas morning, this is actually true. It's just been so long. I did the Christmas breakfast was that he would always make eggs Benedict from scratch. Well, I mean, with exception to like the English muffins, you know. Yeah. But like he took pride in you know the poached eggs.
Yeah, that's not
and
an easy
the,
breakfast.
Yeah.
And the hollandaise sauce was his baby.
Yeah.
That's
He would wake up
delicious.
so early just to slave over that sauce. Like, yeah, there you go.
Do you guys do breakfast before or after like presents?
It's hit or
After.
miss.
Ours is after.
It was how good I was at lobbying that year.
My parents definitely pushed us till whole opening gifts till after dinner. It was a
Interesting.
long day.
Oh,
I would
the
be
anticipation
chomping at the
kill
bit.
me. Oh
I
my
would
gosh.
be absolutely a nightmare if my parents had
Yeah.
made us wait till after dinner. I would have been like, I'm leaving this family.
when my sister and I were getting old, started like getting older. My dad, you know, my mom and dad both progressive Roman Catholics. To get us to go to midnight mass, I'd be like, if you come to midnight mass, when we get home, you open one present.
Yeah.
All right, I'm in.
That's all you had to say.
Get me a cup of coffee.
Nowadays, we have been opening gifts on Christmas Eve too. So
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We do one gift on Christmas Eve and then everything the next morning. And it's funny because my mom still makes like the younger kids go upstairs before my youngest sister is 17,
Right.
turning 18 in a few months.
Yeah.
But she still makes them all go upstairs and like go to bed before she like stuffs the stockings and like, sorry if any children are watching this, but like, you know, she does all like, she even like still writes like some presents are like from Santa.
Yeah.
And we're, you know, we've all been
Yeah.
out of the Santa thing for many years, but like it's for her just as much as it is for us. But my mom's birthday is 2 days after Christmas.
yeah. Yep.
So Christmas is big.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
year, even when she was like, Christmas is going to be smaller this year, you know, because she didn't have as much money.
Sure.
It was still huge compared to other people's Christmases.
Yep.
Like she goes
Yeah.
all out, but we definitely do breakfast after. We all get up. Although now the best part about having my younger siblings being older is that we all sleep until at least like 9 o'clock.
Nice.
And then we just kind of meander out of bed and
Yeah.
open the presents, have
I
like a
was up
brunch.
before 7 until probably 28.
No, I'm saying even at my big age of 27, I'm up at 6 and I'm like knocking on doors. I'm like, get up.
Yo,
The coffee's already running. You have no excuse.
Like,
Let's
I'm expecting
go.
something.
Right, like-
let's go.
I saw you. We saw each other last night at the stocking. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's one of the things I shattered Amelia's dream of is I told her early there's no Santa Claus.
Aw.
I want credit for these gifts. I'll be blunt. Amelia, I gave you this
Santa's
gift.
not
That's
giving
fair.
around.
That's
Like, I don't care who it is. It's me.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
You know, I knew Santa wasn't real for a long time, but I was one of those kids who like held on to it.
Yep.
Like, no, he's real. And then like at one point when I was like 12, my parents had to sit me down and be like, you need to stop telling people Santa's real. It's us.
Yeah.
And I was like, I cried. I was like, fine. I was a very whimsical child.
Did you ever do something really bad growing up? And
Your parents
it was
went to
before
Santa?
you found out that Santa wasn't real, and you did something really bad, and you were just like on a guilt, like you felt guilty for like a month straight, and you're like, I'm gonna get coal this year, and your parents finally like, what is wrong? It's like, I'm getting coal this year because of what I did.
Stephen, I think that's more of a Catholic guilt thing.
Yeah.
Because I get it, but like
Yeah.
All right, Ramia, tell us about today's sponsor.
Today's sponsor is IMTS Plus, manufacturing digital content to get you ready for IMTS and after. We use videos and articles on topics relevant to manufacturing technologies and the business of manufacturing. I guarantee you will find something you like.
Thanks, Ramia.
Thanks, guys.
Steve, tell me about paint, money, manufacturing.
Okay, so I saw like an investment thing that I don't really know investment stuff, but I saw that Lucid, the electric car company that's supposed to be like the Rolls Royce of Tesla.
Yep.
Which Teslas are already really nice, but like Lucid's supposed to be really, really nice above a few tiers maybe above Tesla. Lucid is being removed from the Nasdaq 100 index.
Wow.
And I was like, what is the Nasdaq 100 index? And I think it's like an ETF or EFT. I don't know, man. And
We'll get there.
anyway,
NFT.
it's the Nasdaq the NFT, Nasdaq 100 index is like the Nasdaq's predicted top 100 most successful companies, upcoming companies, or whatever, something like that. And they've been removed from it, and I can't help but think because earlier this year, last year, having gone to Fanuc's facility to see all of their robots and see the robots being made and see all their stuff. Part of visiting Fanuc's facility, I saw their warehouse and where they get stuff shipped. And in one part of the warehouse where some of the robots are ready to be sent to their end users, there were some different painted robots. And John Toohey, who was showing me around the facility, was pointing, oh yeah, these different colored robots, they're not special. They're just the regular. Well, they're special. They're Fanuc robots. But the color doesn't signify anything special. It's just the end user elected to pay the pretty substantial fee to paint them a color other than yellow, which is the perfect safety industrial color for the robot. And that all of these different colored robots were for all of the new EV companies, Rivian, Tesla. Well, not Tesla anymore. They're trying to make their own robots. Lucid was up there. And I remember seeing that. I remember John telling me that, any of the robots that we make, it's a flat fee for any of the robots that you buy from us. It's like $6,000 to paint it a color other than yellow. Yep. Or you can not spend the $6,000 and just get the best color there is yellow. And I remember seeing that, like, well, Lucid's spending the $6,000 per robot on getting this paint job. And I'm thinking, so why did could it have been a poor financial decision? And having also gone to Stellantis, knowing that, your typical Stellantis has multiple, as a lot of the major automotive manufacturers have multiple plants, but your typical automotive assembly plant has about 900 robots.
Sure.
And if you take 900 and multiply it by $6,000 for custom paint job, that's $5.4 million
Right.
in custom paint jobs for your robots.
It's enough to pay Dr. Evil over 5 times.
So, yeah. So, but I want to ask you guys, if you were running a company that was making a premium product and you had $5.4 million to put somewhere, like employee bonuses or something to optimize production,
Sure.
like machine monitoring investments, something like that, or a paint job
That's interesting.
of your
isn't it?
robots,
Yep.
what would you do?
So at my previous company, that topic actually came up. So I was at a smaller company. We did get acquired by large companies. So the concept of branding your factory floor came up quite a bit. So there was an initiative to say, hey, our color is this. All of your equipment should be this color plus another color instead of whatever manufacturing equipment came by. It's like, that's interesting. But then when you start digging into it, it's very, very costly to change the color or paint post implementation of a manufacturing piece of equipment, especially like CNC mills. We had a lot of CNC mills, lathes. We did have vertical mills at that point, or vertical lathes. We can definitely get into that later.
Yeah.
But at some point, a 3-axis mill costs like $10,000 at some point, through third party to paint afterwards. Wow. That's $10,000 of like cost out improvement, a continuous improvement tooling that you could buy. And plus we had like 54 some machines that had to be painted. And that add up quickly that's a lot of cost for a small site that has to take that burden on. So depending on how Lucid was set up, it could be the factory, it could be the overall, cost of the organization. But in the end, that's cost that you're not getting a return on.
Well, because it's all internal.
Exactly.
So, like, I understand branding the show floor, like, to an extent. Or not the show floor, shop floor, sorry. But, like, at the same time, it's like, but it's going to be, like, 90% just your employees
Just
who see
hidden.
it.
Right.
Yeah. There's a small fraction of people, but they'll know what company they're in when they walk in there. And
Right.
so, like,
Yeah.
no, if I had $5.4 million, I'd probably spend it in that. To stay ahead of the game, I'd probably continue putting it, like, into research
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
And that's the interesting thing is like when you walk into an office, branding of an office is completely different than branding a factory floor, right?
Yep.
So having the factory logo on the main lobby or the locker room, or sure, that makes sense. If that costs $10,000, that's different than spending $10,000 900 times. Yeah, and that's a struggle I've been thinking about as you talk through the article. Is that who said that this was a good decision? Right? What are they getting out of this? Right? Someone had to justify it to say, this is a good decision, but why is that a good decision?
And without trying to like beat up Lucid too much, because I think they make a great product, and I want to see them be successful.
Yeah.
But when John was like pointing at the other robots that weren't painted that were going to brands like Stellantis,
Sure.
Chevy, it's like long established. Now that it's long established car companies that are here they're grounded. They haven't proven, they've proven themselves. They don't need to paint their robots. Like, is that something a long-term car company does, painting their robots?
Well, and I don't think there's an expectation to do that. I think that's part of it too, is that like when you go to a shop floor, I would expect to see like yellow robots or like green robots with universal robotics.
If you went to
Yeah.
the assembly plant, wouldn't you want to know that companies, that product that you want to potentially invest in, if you want to buy a Lucid, don't you want to see like those yellow arms to know that the
Yeah, 'cause
company's
then you-
using
yeah.
the best arms on the market?
Yeah.
Some of the best. We've got a lot of great member companies that make great robot arms.
I don't think people expect it to happen, and I feel like that's
And I think that's the
component.
key in manufacturing is that there's some level of form following function. This is exactly the same scenario, right? You're getting a piece of equipment. You have to paint it something. You need to protect it. And it makes sense to have something bright, something that stands out. In this case, if they want to do red because they have theming of like safety is important and red is, sure, that could make sense. But there was no function in this change. It's purely branding and aesthetic, where there's some value in a scenario when you're related to visual aesthetics. In the factory floor, it's always form follow function. And I think they dropped the ball on this.
I would have to. I'm gonna have to come back to this.
Yeah.
Come back to the podcast with a little bit more research, but I know Ferrari uses Fanuc robots.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
I
think
want
they're
to
red?
see if they paint them red.
We can easily find a video of a Ferrari factory.
Because I kind of want to put like $20 down to say that they probably have yellow Fanuc arms.
Maybe.
And they make everything red. Ferrari paints everything red. They're like Doja Cat.
we need some Doja Cat intro at some point. Speaking of robots, I've got one on research related to robots. So this is from Tech Explorer, a new model to allow robots to re-identify and follow human users. So there's a growing trend of using object recognition to help safety standards and for robotic arms and automation implementation. Basically using vision systems, say, is there a human involved? Slow down system, turn off. Or LiDAR, definitely seen scenarios where you're using point clouds where an object enters a space, it slows down from there. But one of the interesting things is initial detection is fine, but the re-identification to verify that this object still is here. What's going on, right? So if the person is standing there, maybe the vision system loses that identification. So I thought it was a very interesting scenario of back to the brains of an automation cell. You have the end of arm tooling, you've got the arm, and then the brains of the cell. And this is another interesting step where we have vision and software and machine learning / artificial intelligence kind of driving new scenarios where the concept of reassessing or re-identifying human objects within a cell. And one of the scenarios that kind of walk through in the map is industrial mobile robot. So they have an arm on top of an AMR kind of driving around and is following an object. So there's a lot of new scenarios where humans are robots are supporting humans. More of truly collaborative operations where you could have an IMR following you and you give it a description to say, pick this object up or hold this for me. But the importance of re-identifying the human in that space becomes more and more valuable.
You know, at George Mason, they have those little robots that deliver food.
Yep.
And my dad hates them because he thinks that, like, he doesn't realize how smart the robots are.
Right.
So, like, he sees one coming up towards, like, a crosswalk, and he'll slam on his brakes, not realizing the robot can see him.
Correct.
And the robot will stop.
Yep.
And I've tried to explain this to him many, many times because that's what they're designed to do, right? They're designed to see these obstacles and then avoid them or find a way around them.
Yep.
But it's hilarious watching him deal with those robots because he does not think they're smart. He's like he can't wrap his brain around the fact that, like, these robots see this.
Yeah.
You know, they see him and they see the intersection, they see the car, and they're not going to cross the road when a car is going through it.
Right.
So, you know, it's in some ways it feels like such a simple concept, but
Right.
it is very. We saw, you know, at IMTS, I saw this really cool display. I think it was like certain sets of lights that they had where it's like if you were in this one, it would slow down. If
Yep.
you were within this one,
Yeah.
it would fully stop.
Right.
And as long as
Yep.
you stayed within, like, the parameters of that light, it wouldn't move.
Yeah.
And it was a really interesting display.
IMTS 2022 had some incredible safety vision systems.
Yeah.
We saw some great ones. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of
Definitely.
vision and safety we see at 24.
And I think the big takeaway for me is that robots will be in this world.
Yes.
Right. I think there's a couple of restaurants I've been to where robots are kind of the waiters. They'll bring you
Yes.
food.
Denny's.
Yeah.
What?
That's interesting.
Denny's has one.
That's cool.
Like the first time I saw one was at Kura Sushi, like the revolving
Yeah.
sushi bar in Tyson's.
Yeah.
Which very tough to get a table there,
Sure,
by the way.
sure.
And it's which is weird because you go in there and it's like this is like a fast food place.
Yeah.
The one in, like, the middle of the mall.
No, not
Not
so that
Wasabi.
one's actually in the mall. That's Wasabi. You're right. Outside the mall, but like
Okay.
in the Tyson's area by Best Buy, by Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
Is Kura Sushi.
Okay.
And they serve their drinks there. Unless
the
you get an alcoholic
robots.
beverage. That has to be brought to you by a human. So,
Yeah.
you know, bartenders won't be replaced anytime soon. Like, calm down. But yeah, Denny's has the same robot. I'm like,
Interesting.
whoa.
I've seen those on the West
Look at
Coast a lot. A lot of the
Denny's.
hotels will use autonomous robots to bring you like towels or whatever you ask for. So
Waffle House
interesting.
doesn't have them just because they haven't taught them to fight yet.
I'll smoke a
Soon as we
cigarette.
get
and
one.
waffle.
Yeah.
Alyssa, tell me about some DoD awards.
Yes. So speaking of IMTS Plus, who is our sponsor for this episode, our team, our manufacturing explorers, Travis Egan, my boss's boss, and his son, Max Egan, my boss's boss's son, they went to 6K,
Jealous.
located in Pennsylvania, on the most recent season 3. And an article came out recently on the 8th. So this is from 3dprint.com. So the DoD has awarded 6K Additive $23.4 million to upcycle scrap into high-grade 3D printing powders.
That's cool.
So, so they're awarded as part of the Defense Production Act investment,
Yep.
which is part of the Manufacturing Capability Expansion and Investment Program. So it's like an award within a program within a program within a program.
It's the most DoD thing.
Yeah,
ever.
right.
Very-
It's like when you think DoD, you think red tape. So this comes a week after 6K announced that its titanium powder received third-party certification verifying that it contains at least 95% post-consumer recycled titanium.
That's a growing trend that we've been talking about a little bit is the life cycle of a lot of products nowadays. Everything's going to hit end of life at some point. As sad as that may sound, everything has to have end of life, right? It either goes to a landfill or gets recycled. So wind turbines was one thing I've been watching a lot. You know, you have these 100-foot long blades. What do you do with them with the end of life? You know, the past 5 years there's been a shift to change the raw material so that it can be broken down post end of life. Because even these large turbine blades, there's an end of life for this massive thing. Airlines have always had this problem too. Like, how do you recycle a 747? Department of Defense has the same issue with their big aircraft carrier. These can hold 8,000 people. It's literally a floating city. What do you do with that when you have to change over to the next generation?
Yeah.
And it is interesting to see that, you know, the DoD is definitely interested in understanding this and, you know, continuing to look at this object or this thing needs to be converted to something in the future.
I wonder if this has something to do with America, the U.S. government's airplane boneyards are
Yeah.
running out of space.
Exactly.
Because all that titanium, that's aerospace grade stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And titanium is probably, this sounds crazy, but is titanium like probably one of the more easier metals to recycle? Not necessarily work with, but recycle, because you just burn everything off of it and it's gonna remain. That
Yeah.
and tungsten.
Yeah, so the separation of the alloys getting to
And you're not going to mistake
Yeah.
tungsten for titanium.
And that's the funny thing when you talk about the U.S. is massive. Flying across from the East Coast to the West Coast is like 5.5, 6 hours.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're going to run out of space and holding these aircrafts,
Yeah.
you know, as a craft boneyard, we need to figure something out, right? We are literally going to run out of space in the U.S.
God bless this country. You can, as a civilian, buy some of the planes.
Oh, that's true. Just buy,
Like if you want an F-16,
just put it in your garage.
yeah,
Notice-
it's up to you to get it running.
I think most of the military grade ones are kept on base.
See, let's talk to Becky about putting this in the budget for next year.
Should we get an IMTS wrap on an F-16?
just have an F-16 sitting on the top of the parking garage.
Exactly.
Property of
fascinating.
TechTrends podcast.
And to be fair to the Department of Defense, they are fairly cutting edge when they're looking at both
Yeah.
manufacturing. So looking at, you know, how do they handle raw material end of life? We're looking at how they handle additive, their whole life cycle of you know, data within the manufacturing space. They're pushing the envelope quite a bit, and you know, good for them.
Well, and I think it ties into very much like I don't want to say trend, because I feel like it's something that'll stick around for a long time, but the act of sustainability.
Yeah.
You know, like if we already have these materials, why create more?
Yep.
When we can just use the ones that we have
Definitely.
and recycle them.
Yeah.
Recycle people. But not your glass. In the state of Virginia, don't recycle your glass. You're not supposed to do that. Fun fact. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting. And like I said, Manufacturing Explorers, you can watch on IMTS Plus and see them at 6K.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Nice plug.
3 times.
Yeah.
Ramia, where can they find more info about us?
amtonline.org/resources. Like, share, subscribe.
Bye,
Bing
everyone.
bong.
Happy holidays.